if only your uncle was a math teacher. I just want to check your music for you. I can make sure it's your relations with music. Oh, good. Tell them from here. You guys have any plans for next week? We have a kid. We have 2 kids now. Really hard. We love the kids. So what you're saying? So I should call you around 1 and we saw you. Going to a house here. She was from Huntsville. This was her babysitter. They were all different restaurants. Starbucks, Wendy's, Dairy Queen, and Burger King. She was excited just to go there. Put a sweatshirt on that. You started going
behave down there, I'm watching. Oh, are you serious? Are we supposed to eat right away, kind of? Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't. Oh, good. Well, I didn't want to, this is the game. This is really good.
Did you get the large? You already got it.
Wow. We supposed to eat right away then?
Yeah.
Which works? Okay. I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
I'm a bachelor and sometimes, you know, I embarrass myself.
I'm not a bachelor. I'm sometimes not a bachelor. Bachelor's got no order on that market. At least this one.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'll keep my social security number with all the passwords myself.
Yeah, yeah. So we got a few people here.
I'd rather not sit this far forward, but I don't want to have to walk that far to go up there.
Oh, no, I understand. I can certainly move down there too.
No,
started.
Okay.
I read her report
Okay.
of her remarks.
I know all the time.
I think you, does that surprise me?
Can I tell you what it was? Are we live or not? Question.
Yeah.
What?
Well, yeah, one of your source of pleasure in that.
Did you say you got the Cajun?
Comes out or something, it's so good, we can't eat it without.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that too.
And then there's salad and something else.
Question for you? Yes. Okay. You guys have to all talk about Yeah.
She said, come on
You're
down.
coming over here.
Come on down this way.
Working on
That's it.
you want to go ahead?
Yeah.
Another or do you want to
Great, great. I haven't eaten at all today. It was a long pastoral day. But it's good. I've done eat like once a day kind of too. But kind of but this is really great. Were you at the how? Yeah, of course you would. I'm sorry. I've done really out.
You see lots of people.
I know.
I
So,
know that.
but yeah, are you liking it a little bit more, or are you still
Well,
we never had these things at our church.
I'm really there more.
Oh, okay, which is great.
And she wasn't there today, she might feel. I still need to stay.
I will.
I will.
She's got other
Would she be open to a visit? Okay.
Once she told me, well, not.
Oh. Well, I'll be happy or this coming week or whatever you think. Just, give us a heads up or I'll be happy to stop off.
We got
Oh, okay, okay.
she's really good.
I can understand that too.
Well, it's a test. It's like, what you want to do?
Oh, a little claustrophobic as well?
And I don't, that was the one time I didn't go with her and told her she needed to have a test. So I said, no, that's okay. No, it wasn't.
Do you know secret ways around this place?
She keeps coming in other doors.
Yeah.
But I think it's really good.
Oh, I see.
But the sharing,
Yeah, that's really key. I mean,
it's really important. Couple.
yeah, I was talking to Pastor Meeks after he finished. Well, I had other pastoral appointments that came back. And he also said, and it kind of hit that way, what's her name? The young lady that lost her husband. Yeah.
We're trying to.
And he said she's really open enough to share.
Once they start.
Yeah.
She's got 2 kids. She's trying to
Yeah, I got that.
rest of it.
Do you have a church? Oh, okay.
And I asked her, and she told me
You say the front row of your church. The front row.
That's just my style.
Separating all the leaders? Or the-
somebody's got to sit.
When the leaders can get it first.
Oh, shoot.
All I'm gonna do right now is put it on. Good evening, everyone,
Good evening.
and welcome to our 2021 annual meeting of the Howard County Historical Society. While you can make all the noise you want eating your luscious meals, please turn off your phones. Take a moment, silence or turn them off. That would help a great deal. We want to thank our sponsors for the evening. That would be Dave Du Bois with Wyman Group and the Law Office of Sarah Pitcher and the Davis, McDonald, and White.
No annual meeting would be complete unless I do this. That's my job.
And Davis, McDonald, and White Law Offices. They got a little bit more oomph there on that one. But without further ado, please let me introduce our President of the Board of Trustees, Sharon Reed.
Now we have to adjust again. A little bit of a height difference. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, it's good to see you in person here as our audience. Here at Inventrack Technology Park Auditorium. We also have an audience out there with Facebook Live. Those people that are online hopefully are part of our membership. They are volunteers and donors. And out there in the world, every now and then when we do Facebook Live, we find somebody from Singapore or somewhere else around the world. We'd like for you online to let us know where you're from. Presiding as president during 2021 has been an honor. Serving during the pandemic has required the use of all of my education, all of my 31 years of corporate experience, the use of my life skills, and definitely increased my prayer life. I love this community. I've been here 45 years. And I understand as a leader, my commitment is to serve in this position, having an eagle's eye view of our public interest as well as our integrity as a nonprofit. It requires us to set aside our personal views in the matters that arise per our board manual. Our mission and long-range plan was amended a few years ago to reinforce that we are here to collect, to preserve, and share the diverse history of all the peoples of Howard County. This objective is being accomplished by diversifying our board members and our membership with the demographics and what reflects the community at large. We have added a community relations committee, which is available to participate in community events, as well as to come to your organization and speak. Monumental to this experience over the last 2 years has been the support of our staff, who helped to add the new permanent Howard County African American History Build exhibit. At such a time as this, we're here to present that to our community. We had the help of an African American advisory group, and we thank them for all of their input. There is no reason to visit if there isn't a historical connection displayed or archived for our residents. Speaking of this reminds me that we have a deadline coming up, and that is nominations for our annual Hall of Legends program, which is December the 1st. That's the deadline. So if you have someone you would like to nominate for the Hall of Legends, you can go to our website and download the form, or you can call the office and they will give you support to help you be able to submit a nomination. Our program is in March of 2022, and you have a handy-dandy magnetic calendar with all of the events on it. In closing, quoting the title of Maya Angelou's best-selling book, "Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now." Thank you, and God bless you all. I'm calling the meeting to order, and next will be our Vice President, Dave Du Bois.
Another adjustment. Although I've never been accused of being quiet, so I probably don't need the microphone. Nonetheless, I noticed that Sharon got an applause when she came up here and it was dead silent. I love to clap my guilt. That's great. It's my job to present the minutes from the 2020 annual meeting and get approval and passage of said minutes. I'm going to summarize the first couple of paragraphs. Last year at the annual meeting, Sharon had been called out of town for a family emergency, so I presented her notes for her. The meeting was brought to order, called to order at 6 p.m. And now I will read a few paragraphs from last year. On behalf of the Board Development Committee, Randy Rusch presented the following nominations for re-election to the Board of Trustees for a 3-year term: Dave Du Bois, Lynn Smith, Chris Whistler, and Randy Rusch. He also presented the committee's nominations of Judy Brown, the Reverend Dr. Michael Carson, and Corey Wood to fill 3 open seats on the board. The committee recommendations, which have been approved by the executive committee, were seconded by Chris Whistler and unanimously approved by voice vote. Randy also presented the recommendation of Board Development Committee for the slate of officers for 2021. Sharon Reed as president, Dave Du Bois as vice president, Linda Ferris as secretary, Chris Whistler treasurer, and Larry Hayes as member at large. The slate was accepted unanimously by voice vote. On behalf of the organization, it's weird to say this, but I thanked outgoing members Nita Campbell, Linda Clark, Dana Osborne, and Marcia Santon for their service. The official annual meeting was adjourned at 6:12 p.m. with the program following. Howard County Historical Society Executive Director Catherine Hughes presented an annual report for 2020 along with the Society's plans for activities and programs. Filling in for historian Gil Porter, who was ill, Gia Hardiman Eddington and Reverend Michael Carson presented Gil's program on Howard County pioneer Mrs. Aliff Henley, an African-American woman from North Carolina who, freed from enslavement, had moved north to become one of the first landowners and then new Howard County, Indiana, in the early 1840s. Entertainment for the evening was a Jeopardy game. I think I'll just leave it at that. We did have Peter Inman, board member at the time, that emceed that event with Tom Tolan from the city of Kokomo, Cheryl Graham from the United Way, and local businessman, and apparently my dad, Paul Wyman. I can't wait to tell him. Then we, sorry, I made myself laugh, so I lost my place. During the intermission in the competition, audience members were treated to a video recording of an interview with Mrs. Ruth Timoni on the 35th anniversary of the Black Women of the Midwest Project. Ruth served as chair of the original project and was part of the anniversary display in the Cyberling last March. Competition resumed and ended with the victory of Tom Tolan, a former employee of the Historical Society who now works for the city of Kokomo, who won the Jeopardy project. The program ended at 7 p.m. Now, those are your minutes from the 2020 annual meeting. I will entertain a recommendation to pass the minutes as read. Are there any, we have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. You'll have to tell me who made that first and second. Peggy made the initial. Mike made the motion and Peggy seconded the motion. Thank you very much to both of you. Does anybody have any edits that they'd like to present or offer for my edited minutes? With that, with none being heard, can I get a vote to pass as presented? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, the Board of Directors, Board of Trustees would like to present the following members to be put back on the Board of Trustees. We have 5 people who have completed the through 2021, and they are willing to go again. And these include the Reverend Dr. Michael Carson, Larry Hayes, Alyssa Peer, Sharon Reed, and Reverend Dr. William Smith. Now we have some new people that want to come in, and these 2 people we'd like to recommend as new people starting for a 3-year term. This would be Arthur Frost and Taylor Mills. And we have an additional person who we'd like to have backfill a vacancy left by Peter Inman to fill out his term. And this would be Heather, Sarah Heath. So we'd like to offer those 7 people, or ask the society to approve those 7 people to be on the Board of Trustees for the next 3 years.
I make a motion to approve.
There's a motion, is there a second? There's a second, okay, so I had Dave Du Bois made the motion, and I think Peggy Hobson seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
And we also want to recognize the work that 2 outgoing board members have done, which Peter Inman and Ann Shaw, who have done a lot for the organization. So we want to thank them for their service.
The meeting is adjourned, and we will move into our program. Yes.
Nobody ever wants me to come to the microphone because they know I always talk about money. And this is no different. During the past year, we've had a lot of wonderful contributions. We've been raising money to do some major improvements.
You all know we've been raising money for the portico chair on the mansion, and that project is pretty well underway now. But you also know, or should know, that we still have operating costs that go on, even though we get a lot of money for those special projects. And our operating money funds a lot of good things. All of our part-time employees, from the person who answers the phone, the guy who does the photos, the people who do the exhibits. We still have to pay for trash removal. There's a plumbing problem every once in a while. So we would really like to encourage you. You will get a letter in the very near future asking for a donation to our annual campaign for our operating expenses. And we would ask you to be as generous as you can to help support us for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. You should have received, and if you haven't, we will get you one, a very brand new, hot off the press magnet that shows you all of the events for 2022. So we're very excited to be able to have this. It was designed by our own Heather Fouts, and she did a great job on the design of it. And so if you don't have one yet, please grab one on your way out. So for any annual meeting, we want to look at what we've been able to do this year. And we've done a lot. It's been a very busy time. We started by opening the first phase of Howard County African American History Revealed. And this was a new initiative where we have been able to really plan out 4 different phases of one exhibit and put that throughout the museum, not just in one place, but throughout on different floors, different areas, and different exhibits. And then we had our Hall of Legends virtual event in March. A lot of people were able to enjoy that as a virtual experience. That was the first time for us. Howard County African American History Revealed Phase 2 opened in June, and this was again a big leap for our staff. Putting all of that together, that was on the 2nd floor. We had the automotive scavenger hunt for the 2nd time with a few more vehicles, and we look forward to having many more next year. We celebrated Juneteenth in June with a free day for the community. We had a really nice response to that. And then we had a free day for veterans on July 4th. We are free for any active service as part of the Blue Star Museums, but veterans are not included in that. That's just active service. So we wanted to have an opportunity for veterans to have a free day. Then in September, we opened Phase 3. And that part, we were able to honor our wonderful, we have a board member related to that exhibit. Gia Hardiman was able to loan us a number of items which we were able to display in the exhibit about her grandfather, Baggy Hardiman. And then finally, we just finished up Dark Pages in October, and it was a rousing success. We were very, very happy at the response. And Joyce is shaking her head. That's great, because she was there for hours. It was wonderful. We also have other things that we're doing, including Footprints, which is published quarterly. So we have done 3 issues right now. Emily is working on the final issue of the year to come out in November. And we are doing Voices of Pandemic and Protest, which is an oral history project that Gil Porter has been working with us on. And we just got a new grant in which we can continue to work on that project. So that's actually gonna rev up again. And we've had a successful capital campaign to repair the port cochere. We have been very lucky to get a number of grants awarded to us this year. It's a lot of type, so you don't have to worry about reading all of those. But suffice to say, we've got a lot of support in the community. Particularly the Community Foundation has always been a really great supporter of the Historical Society. And we did receive 2 grants from Indiana Humanities through the ARP funds. So here, more numbers. This is up to the end of October. Jill and I both thought it was funny that we counted up 1,200 even for our visitorship. And that does not include Christmas. We hope to increase that a lot during Christmas. We have 198 current members. Our social media data is very positive. We have a lot of followers, 4,927, and we have a lot of likes, 4,545. There's lots and lots of social media data that we can sift through that helps us understand who is paying attention to us, who's noting what we're doing, who is liking us or engaging in that way. We also raised $52,710.54 for the Port Cochere match. That's pretty awesome. And so to start us off with that annual campaign, we have already received $3,104. So we're very happy that that is already there. So those are the numbers for the year up to the end of October. But next up is part of our program, which is going to begin with a tribute to our volunteers. Just pull that up. Let me stop right there just to say that I skipped, my finger went too fast, and I skipped the slide that said we're going to hear from our volunteers who are going to share with us what brought them here to volunteer at the Cyberling, and also what some of their favorite things are about volunteering.
I grew up in Kokomo. I went here when it was IUK. Then I moved away for 45 years or more. But when I came back, when I retired and came back, I wanted to do something that I could use my talents and skills, and this was one of the first places I started volunteering. I took a tour of the architecture of this area, Indiana landmarks. I gave a tour, and somehow Kelly, who wasn't Kirchhoff at the time, she was Thompson, signed me up, and I've been volunteering probably for 15 and a half years. I've enjoyed it very much, and Friday has been my day. I don't have ownership of Friday, but I do enjoy knowing the week is finishing with tours.
Okay, so what brought me to this is my family history. My great-grandfather was the first librarian for Howard County, and the first high school. My mother was always been associated with the historical society, as well as my older sister and her husband. She's married to Alan Harnish, Mary Ellen's brother, and when the Historical Society took over this building, the Harnishes were one of the families that helped refurbish the house and bring it back to where it's at today.
I apologize if the sound is not great for you. They told me the dials to hit. I'm hitting them, but it doesn't seem to be changing anything.
Hi, I'm Roberta Height, and I've been volunteering here around 6-7 years, but I've been coming to CyberLink for 4 years. I would bring my 8th grade students here for a field trip. I would bring my grandchildren here for Christmas, even our children, many years ago. So this is like an old friend, and when I got the opportunity to volunteer, I was thrilled.
All right. I first came to the Cyberlink Mansion as a volunteer with a friend, Mary Ellen Harnish, who said, "This is something you can do." And I looked back at her and I said, "You're correct. We'll go and do that."
And you, Christy?
I enjoy history. I've always enjoyed history. My history classes in school. And so to me, it's the history. And I came here this year like the Christmas time. And I was in Christmas time. And I just thought that looked like an exciting thing to do.
My favorite part of hosting is meeting people, finding out what they're interested in, and just conversing, maybe where they're from, hobbies they like, and hobbies that I like, and tell them different things about Kokomo, the events, older buildings, and the people that used to live here.
One of the things I enjoy in giving tours is when school children come in. And part of that would be because I was a school teacher. And the school children, I try to engage them in answering and listening and answering questions. So one of the tricks you do as a school teacher, you ask the same question several times so that more people can have a chance to say the right answer. And if somebody gives a wrong answer, you say, "Oh, what should he have said?" And then the children can tell you what he should have said. So interacting with the kids and having teachers be glad that I know how to interact with their students has been a great enjoyment.
I like teaching people about Kokomo, about the history of Kokomo, because a lot of them don't know, even people who don't know Kokomo don't know why that is.
Hi. One of my favorite questions is when visitors ask about the icebox. Older people will remember family members having an icebox, and they know the story about how the ice would melt the ice would turn into a can, and there are other teachers who put the flowers. But young people have no clue what an icebox is, and they really ask about it. So the different generations, both the elderly or the young people, I enjoy telling them about how iceboxes really work.
I enjoy meeting people, and it is the people who come from all over the world actually here to the museum, and sometimes a surprise as to where they have come from actually to see our museum.
Well, we have heard from a sample of our Historical Society volunteers, but there are more out there who do the heavy lifting of interacting with visitors and helping staff. And we want to thank all of them through the work they've done in the pandemic, rolling with different ways to do things, and their continued support. So if we could have a round of applause.
So I get the best part of the program, which is to honor our volunteers that are present here. We have some that have not been able to come today, but they will be honored also later. One of the greatest things, titles that I think we have is volunteer. I wear many hats, I've had many titles, but the one I cherish the most is to be a volunteer. So I want the volunteers to come up as I call them names, so I have a certificate to present to each one of them. Could I have Christy Oram come forward, please? Yes, let's go. And Christy, if you could just stay up here so we can maybe get a photo of all of you. But I would like to present to you this certificate for 2 years of service with the Howard County Historical Society, and we really appreciate you. Next, we have John Wilkerson. Hi, John. Hi. I would like to present the certificate to you for 12 years of service with the Howard County Historical Society and meeting our guests as they come in. Sandy Grant. As she's coming, I have not had the pleasure of being around some of the volunteers that give all the information, but I was in the museum one day when Sandy was giving information, and I was just engaged as the visitors were, listening to what she knew about our artifacts and our museum. Sandy, I would like to thank you and present this certificate for 15 plus. We didn't quite know what the number was, but we knew it was 15 plus years of service for us. Thank you. Ruth Owens. Ruth Owens. Not here today? Okay. Judy Brown. You can see her. Judy is a board member, and I don't know how many years she served in that capacity, but she also is a volunteer. So Judy, on behalf of the Howard County Historical Society, here's a certificate presented for 30 plus years. We didn't get an exact number on it. Our next volunteer is Juanita Martin Davis. Yes. If there's anyone in the room that wants to be a volunteer, Jill, raise your hand. She's back there, our volunteer coordinator, and see her.
Slow but sure.
Wins the race.
Yes.
Juanita, on behalf of the Howard County Historical Society, we present you the certificate for 30 plus years of service this day. And last but not least, oh, not quite last but not least, yes, last. The best for last. Goldie Snavely.
Yay, Goldie!
As Catherine said, there are many more that were able to come. Hopefully we'll have these posted so you can see all the names and the years. Yes, Goldie, bless her heart, has been with us 35 years plus.
No.
35 years exactly. Okay, here we go.
Not every day.
Catherine, I touched your keys there. We present the certificate to you for 35 years of service, and we appreciate you very much. Without you, we cannot do what we do. Thank you. Thank you. Here you go. We value our volunteers, as you know. We already did that one. As you know, there is a shortage of workers in Howard County, but there also is a shortage of volunteers. And so as we go through this little period, we hope that people will feel more comfortable to come out. And we invite you all to take a look and try, see what that is all about, and come and volunteer for us, as well as other nonprofits in the community. Thank you so much.
We have one more.
We will have a certificate. Ann Bradshaw, would you come forward? She's a new volunteer. I saw you out there earlier, but I didn't know you were a volunteer. So we want to thank you for your service, and we will give you a certificate before you leave today. Okay? Less than 1 year? Well, maybe the certificate will make sure you make the 1 year.
Just got my phone to take a few pictures of you.
1, 2, 3. Smile.
You want to hold up your screen?
Oh, I guess I never be able to talk. Awesome, thank you.
And I know as I look out that there are others amongst you who have volunteered and contributed to the Historical Society. I'm looking at the riders right now. We thank you all very, very much for your service. Without further ado, we want to also celebrate our staff, which has really done an amazing job this year on so many levels, doing so many different things. So this is an interactive participatory part, and so you have to answer this question. You've got it. It is our intrepid assistant curator, Randy Smith. Okay. And who is always ready to help anyone, staff, volunteers, board, and visitors. I should add strangers. Well, I would say Heather too, but this person always goes above and beyond. It is our welcoming volunteer and membership coordinator, Jill Schneider. Who knows the inner workings of the Cyberling, Elliott, both carriage houses better than anyone?
Mr. Bill.
It would be our meticulous and hardworking caretaker, Bill Baldwin. And that is Bill working hard on an exhibit.
Wow.
Who is the historic images back together.
Gail.
Where is he? That's right. Our own fastidious photo technician, Gail Leiter. Who can balance the accounts and then design an eye-catching brochure? All in the same day. That is right, our own multi-talented office manager, Heather Howe. Who can collect, curate, exhibit, and occasionally play a monster in front dark pages?
And play the band.
And play the banjo. And our own accomplished curator, Stu Lava. All right, well, this one is sort of a given. Who can write a grant, make a speech, and put together a PowerPoint? That is correct. That would be me. All right. And finally tonight, last but not least, we want to have a big round of applause and appreciation for the members of our 2021 Board of Trustees. If all of our members would please just stand. And here you see almost all of our Board of Trustees, with a few missing members, but looking good. And now I want to invite Kelly Karakoff to come up and do a tribute to Dave.
First of all, I'd like just to say congratulations on such a great year. Give yourselves a round of applause. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize Joyce Salkowski and the rest of the Broman family that have joined us here tonight to honor Dave Broman's service to the church. Thank you for being here. It's my great honor tonight to share the stories about Dave Broman, so I'm going to get started. This will be like a trip down memory lane for many of you that are in the room. Dave Broman touched hundreds of thousands of lives with more than a quarter of a century in broadcasting. He may have touched millions. With his wit and wisdom and generous spirit, he made friends wherever he went and left a lasting impression on those of us who were fortunate enough to spend time serving with him. Dave left a huge hole in the community, the Historical Society, and our hearts when we lost him on June 4th, 2021. Dave moved to Kokomo in 1986 and served as the program manager at WWKI. He was there for 25 years. He had been in town just a few years when he was asked to volunteer his expertise to MC several events at the museum. His first tour of the Cyberlane Mansion piqued his curiosity, and he began what would be a 30-year relationship with the Howard County Historical Society. The last 8 he served as our executive director. Dave left a lasting legacy of service, dedication, and accomplishment. Dave always had a love for old houses and had experience and knowledge of caring for them. He once shared with me that the beautiful architecture of the mansion was what originally inspired him to serve on the board of directors. Being part of preserving such a magnificent structure inspired him, and he was committed to making sure of taking care of it for the future. He dreamed that our mansion would one day be a centerpiece of community pride. Dave served a couple of decades as a volunteer, over the years co-chairing committees for buildings and ground, long-range planning, marketing, exhibits, along with several terms as president of the board. Dave had been on the board just about a year when he was asked to be the president. The Historical Society's director had left, and the board president and the executive committee were responsible for the day-to-day management of the museum, so he was really excited to get a director hired. As the president in 1990, he jump-started the search for a new director. He pushed the board to re-examine the applicants and make a decision about the type of person they needed to lead the Historical Society. They opted to hire a local, very young person who had no museum experience, but did have the qualities they felt were needed to reinvigorate the organization, and they picked me. A trip down memory lane. From the moment I met Dave, I knew he cared deeply about the organization and he had a dream and vision for the future. In 1991, we began our quest to establish the Cyberling Mansion as the centerpiece of community pride. Those were his words. With Dave as board president, the board and staff went to work to develop the first mission statement and long-range plan for the Historical Society. That process helped us focus on what we wanted to become and how we would advance the mission. The long-range plan helped keep the board engaged and focused. Some of the Society's biggest and most important projects weren't in the long-range plans, but they only happened because the plans created opportunities and a framework for success. Some of you are in these pictures. Dave, with Mary Ellen Harnish, led the discussion, brainstorming, and writing of all those plans, and that may be what he's most proud of. We had fun with the board, staff, volunteers, and community stakeholders to execute our plans that were achieved year after year. Every goal achieved moved the organization forward and kept us on track. Over the years, we worked hard to take a sleepy little historical society and turn it into one of the best historical societies in the state of Indiana. Dave was my mentor for over 2 decades. As president and as a member of the board, he had a way of making you believe you could do anything. He was a trusted advisor, he was available, kind, creative, and a dedicated problem solver and visionary. He created a safe place for the staff to grow professionally, and he always supported our ideas to launch new and exciting programs. Tonight, I would like to share some of the successes I attribute to his leadership and the commitment to long-range planning that he loved so much. In 1991, we launched the first opening night of Christmas at the Cyberling. This event is held the Saturday after Thanksgiving and has turned into a 30-year community tradition. I think I got a couple extra ones here. Volunteer decorators, a lighting ceremony, horse-drawn carriage rides, luminaries lining the streets of the old silk stocking neighborhood. Remember when we used to do that? We were crazy and very fun. Delicious cookies and wassail and visits with Santa make our signature event magical. Over the years, Dave made sure we received free publicity on the radio, which helped us increase visitation throughout the holiday season, resulting in an increase of revenue to support our great work. There's people coming in the door. I love this picture. Oops, did I? Okay. The Kokomo Sesquicentennial Celebration in 1994 marked the 150th anniversary of the founding of Kokomo, and in the same year we celebrated the 100th anniversary of Elwood Haynes' test drive down Pumpkin Vine Pike in the Pioneer automobile. As president of the Historical Society and vice president of the Haynes-Apperson Festival, Dave was in a unique position to act as a liaison between the organizations and play a significant role in bringing the Haynes Pioneer back to Kokomo from the Smithsonian for a 1-month exhibition. Wow. Dave was involved in the negotiation and in enlisting the help of legislators to facilitate the loan, and the festival paid for the renovation of the Cyberling Carriage House in order to provide stable climate control and security for the protection of this precious historic artifact. For those of you who remember we had to have security 24 hours a day. I wrote that card. Dave also worked with the festival to secure the funding to transport the car to Kokomo. The day we rolled the Pioneer out of the moving van on its expensive custom-made dolly into the new renovated carriage house was a special treat, and it's a wonderful memory. I will never forget Dave telling the curator from the Smithsonian Transportation Museum, quote unquote, "Money will not be an obstacle in bringing the Pioneer home." And from that point on, they really started talking to us when they knew we could pay to properly transport it. We partnered with Syndicate Cells to pick up, and they brought home Haynes and Apperson cars from all over the country to be displayed and be driven in the Haynes Apperson parade. People were sending their cars here and weren't even coming to drive them. Strangers were driving their cars in this parade. It's over 100 Haynes and Apperson cars in that parade. It was a fabulous day. This celebration and special exhibit took our organization to a new level. The day the Pioneer arrived, we celebrated and claimed. Today, we just became a real museum. In addition, the proceeds from the sesquicentennial were used to establish a fund in the Community Foundation to benefit the mission of the Historical Society in perpetuity. Acquisition and renovation of the Elliott House and its carriage house was important to securing the future of the Historical Society campus. We negotiated with Indiana University and they sold the properties to us for $2 with the understanding that they had to be used for Historical Society purposes. The way the story goes, it's true. They had divided the properties improperly, and we were in a 99-year lease for the mansion and the Cyberlink carriage house, and in a 99-year lease for the Elliott carriage house and half of the Elliott house. Kind of right through the living room.
Oh, wow.
So they couldn't sell the property free and clear. So this put us in a really good position to negotiate. So we broke the parcels apart. We bought the mansion and his carriage house for $1 and the Elliott house for in his carriage house for $1. One stipulation that the facilities have to be used in perpetuity for the Historical Society or they immediately revert back to IU. This is a good thing because it protected our investment in the facilities in perpetuity. Year after year, all those dollars going into these facilities thinking that, what if somebody just decided they wanted the mansion back? Then what? So this was a great accomplishment. This new contract helped us expand our footprint on Sycamore Street and protect our investment in the facilities. Dave started calling the mansion and the Elliott House the two old dames of Sycamore Street. Some members of the board when we got the Elliott House. We immediately launched a fundraising campaign to renovate the Elliott House, preparing it to be decorated by the designer show home, which helped offset the cost of the renovation. Thousands of people toured. We used the momentum of raising funds. We used that momentum to raise funds to install climate control in the Cyberlink mansion, followed by a campaign to fund the cost of redecorating the mansion with assistance from the designer show home again. Thousands of people toured, and again, this helped to offset our expenses. Stu likes to tell this story that I think we emptied the mansion twice in 1 year. Yeah, it was super fun. I don't know if my pictures, I think I lost the rest of my pictures. I can still keep going, but they're gone. I think it ended there. Do we miss some? It's okay, I can wing it. Let's see, we barely caught our breath when we turned our attention to the renovation of the Elliott Carriage House to be used as an archival library and a new staff space. All those projects happened within a 6-year period of time. What an exciting adventure for all of us. Over the years, we received countless grants, increased our membership base, and strengthened our community partnerships with nonprofits and local business. Dave challenged the board and the staff by asking one question on a regular basis. If the Historical Society ceased to exist, would anyone care? His question motivated us. We reenacted the wedding of M. Cyberlink with a volunteer cast for tour bus groups from all over the country. The first summer, 19 tour buses stayed overnight in our hotels, and we were their evening entertainment. We hosted America Girl events, helped fund the Kokomo Foster encampment. We launched the Howard County Hall of Legends engaged the community in storytelling, allowing them to share stories about Continental Steel, Haynes Stellite, the 1965 tornado, and the Underground Railroad, and Dave was at the center of all of it. One goal that Dave was particularly interested in was the building and grounds, and he wanted them to be as beautiful as the buildings. So, Dave had the idea to plant 10,000 daffodils. A project in partnership with Kokomo Convention and Visitors Bureau under Director Peggy Hobson, and Peggy's back there. Also a long volunteer and board member for the Historical Society. This project was a way to enhance the museum's position as, again, a centerpiece of community pride. We received a grant from the Visitors Bureau and ordered 10,000 daffodils, which the staff and volunteers, mostly the staff, Bill can attest to that, planted in the beds along the front of the mansion. It was a lot of work, but when the daffodils bloomed the following spring, it was spectacular. You can't even imagine what 10,000 daffodil balls look like coming off the back of a semi-truck. Dave just stood there and smiled. With every successful project and program, our membership and financial support grew. We were able to hire a professional curator and expand our team, which helped make the museum move to another level. Stu Lauterbach and Bonnie Van Clay led a team of part-time staff and volunteers to focus on the collections. Dave and I focused the board on the policies needed to support their great work. One major accomplishment was creating a collecting policy to guide the collection of artifacts, something Dave was very proud to see accomplished. In 2008, the Howard County Historical Society was honored with the Outstanding Local History Organization Award from the Indiana Historical Society, and in 2012, we were recognized again with the Indiana Historical Society's Outstanding History Project Award for the Ryan White Oral History Project, another project he was very proud of, and me too. Of course, the most expensive project undertaken during Dave's tenure, and the one with the longest impact on historic preservation, was the replacement of the slate roof on the Cyberly Mansion. A project that required putting together $500,000 for the massive effort. A new slate roof was a serious financial challenge, but the results will speak for themselves in the next 100 years. We have Dave to thank for leading such a successful campaign. Fundraising for the long anticipated project began in 2015, and the restoration was completed in 2015 to 2018. In 2018, Indiana Landmarks, a private nonprofit organization dedicated to saving and preserving historic places, presented the Howard County government and the Howard County Historical Society with an outstanding restoration award for their work on the Cyberly Mansion roof. HCH, Howard County Historical Society, has struggled for years with the inherent conflict between operating a museum and maintaining a historic home. The two are nearly incompatible, but under Dave's leadership, the staff found a way to bring them together by focusing our story on the Indiana gas boom. We've used that to create a more coherent set of exhibits, docent presentations, videos, articles, and online materials, and more. Dave shared before he retired, this is his quote. We talked about this a lot throughout 30-year period of time about sustainability for the museum in the future. And he shared, sustainability is a challenge for local museums and small historical societies. The ways people and businesses interact with each other and the ways they support the things they care about have changed radically during the time I've been involved with the Historical Society. But the importance of preserving the lessons of history has only grown. I hope the board and staff will find ways to engage people and remain relevant. I hope I've left the organization better able to do so. Dave believed in the importance of history, of sharing stories, of making preservation memories. And this man, known for his calmness and his kindness, left his own history to be remembered. I think we can all agree Dave Broman was a treasure to our organization, and his legacy will live on forever. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Joyce and Corey and Joe for sharing Dave with us all these years. I know we were very high maintenance. He always answered the call, so thank you so much for sharing him with us. I'd also like to challenge all of you, as Judy was talking about the end of the year campaign. You know, as he thought about sustainability and he thought about the future of the Historical Society, I can't think of a better way to honor him than this year to just write that check for, $100 more. Send it in. It's a great way to honor Dave's legacy and to keep the Historical Society moving forward. So thank you for allowing me to speak about Dave tonight, and you guys are just doing such an awesome job. And Catherine, you're doing a great job. Thank you. My stick pin, when you think you might cry, you're supposed to bring a stick pin and stick yourself. Catherine thought I might make myself bleed, so I decided to leave it at home. So anyway, we do have a few more minutes. Is there anyone that would like to tell your favorite Dave Roman story? Anybody out there that would like to share anything about Dave? Putting you all on the spot. Go.
I'm sorry. I'm a political animal. I believe women voters, I do all kinds of other volunteer, and Dave would come over, and we would engage in conversation, and he always made me feel like my political views were perfect. Now, he maybe didn't agree with me, Joyce, but he never said that. So I always felt warm and fuzzy after Dave would come over and we would rehash some of the local news. And for that, I thank him.
So I'm a June volunteer, and I started on June 3rd, I believe. It was a Thursday. And as I walked out to get in my car after I was done, there was a gentleman there, and Jill said, I want you to meet this man, this is Dave Groman. Of course, I knew who Dave Groman was because I'm from Kokomo, but I never met him. And so I was a little nervous about this because here's Dave Groman, see Dave Groman from the radio and everything else. So I stood and talked to him for about an hour that Thursday afternoon, and kind of picked his brain. And I said, well, I'm new here, and he said, well, I'm retiring. I don't work here anymore, but I can tell you a few things that you need to know. And we stood and talked for about an hour. And I am sure grateful for that day that I talked to you.
Thank you.
Well, I got to know Dave Roman because we always had a vehicle in the Hayes Amherst parade, and we always decorated it, Hayes Brothers. One time we had the state-winning baseball team from Taylor High School on the back. Everybody loved it. Every year we did something, cheerleaders or something. But we always liked to throw candy out to the kids. And like I said, I'd never met Dave. He came up to me and said, no, you're going to have to stop throwing candy out because we have a policy here. So next year. Next year. He said, are you ever going to learn? You have to stop this. I mean, I think he was ready to pull my hair out. That's how I met Dave Roman.
Well, then I think the next negotiation you have with Dave Roman is the first year I was at the Historical Society in 1991. We had leaks around every chimney. The flashing was pulling back, and Dave called Larry out to look at the roof and the flashing, and we didn't have any money. We did not have any money. And Dave negotiated with Larry to fix all the chimneys and let us pay for 2 a year until they were finished. That's a lot. So thank you, Larry, for that.
I add that gray slate roof that was on the mansion was a 75-year roof, and we got 125 years out of it because of that.
Yeah.
Every year we were up there fixing leaks.
Larry would come every year. I know he gave us a really good deal. He said, we're going to stretch this roof out. Then Dave got to do the final fix. Anybody else? Julie.
see, going to see. And things like that too, that were extra, that were nice and fun and personal. And it was special.
He was special. He had a way of making everybody feel special. Anybody else? My friendship with Dave was outside of the Historical Society too. We served on all kinds of boards together. Haynes Apperson, Community Foundation, United Way. He was a treasurer on every board that I ever saw him serve. He always found himself, even though he didn't want to in a leadership position, he'd be president of this and president of that. It's just he had a natural way of just being an outstanding leader, and he could bring people together in a special way to solve problems. So we aren't the only group that had benefited from his great work, but I'd like to think that we were his favorite.
Well, I think that we can thank Kelly for being such an outstanding speaker on Dave's behalf, because she certainly knew him well and can talk about all those amazing moments of his impact on our world. We'll jump to the end of our meeting tonight. We thank you all very much for attending. It is, oh, that's going to start it all over again. But, sorry. I will end with the appreciation for the fact that I was able to have a year with Dave. So that was a really great thing. So his impact is still felt in any number of ways around the office. We do tend to go, crap, what are we going to do now a lot, because we can't call Dave. We miss him in small ways and big ways. So it is, even though he was retired, he still gave an enormous amount to everything that we were doing. So we appreciate that. All right, that is the end of our annual meeting for 2021. Thank you all so much for coming.